Registration. So, hi everyone. Today we have Rusty Burge with us from CPR, which is Choice Property Restoration. She has been in BNF for a very long time. I just got to know that she's been in BNF for around 16 years. So she will be giving us a lot of experience she has had for about 16 years, a lot of learnings for her own business and in general how to crack BNI. Over to you, Rusty. If you can give a quick introduction for our audience, I think that would be awesome.
Hey, glad to be on. Thank you very much for inviting me. So, yes, I'm Rusty Burge, and I own Choice Property Restoration here in Nashville, Tennessee. And I am one of the very few triple master certified restorers that are females in our industry. So, it's a different perspective, but
Yeah.
a lot of fun to do.
Yeah, for sure, 100%. So, if you can give me a brief about your BNI journey, how it started, how it's going on right now, how BNI actually impacted you and your business for both personal skills and professional skills.
Oh gosh, so many ways. So, when I started back in 2009, I was working for another company,
Hmm.
and they had asked me to join some networking groups. And it's funny because when I walked into the BNI that I went into and that I'm still a member of today, there was only one other woman in the room.
Okay.
And so it was a lot of men in suits and, higher. And I thought, oh gosh, am I in the right room?
Yeah.
But I decided, I was like, you know what? I am in the right room. I'm going to take a seat at the table. And that was one of the
Hmm.
biggest lessons, just having the courage to show up that first time,
Yeah.
and I think people don't give enough credit to that because whenever you go to a networking event, and especially one that's not just a mixer where you're holding a drink and shooting the breeze with people, but this
Hmm.
one was, very detailed where everybody sat around, they all had
Hmm.
to stand up and speak. It was very quiet in the room,
Yeah.
when the meeting started. But that initial networking, when the visitor host came up to me and welcomed me well, was like,
Hmm.
okay, I can breathe and I can
Yeah.
start my journey here. But as I learned, they taught me for definitely public speaking, how to be prepared to have that 60-second about what you do that doesn't just spill on people's shoes that, hi, this is what I do, this is what I'm looking for, what do you do, blah, blah. But to really be able to connect with someone in a short period of
Yeah.
time. I think BNI is very good at teaching you how to do that.
Yeah.
And then the follow up, making sure that you feel welcome after you've shown up the first time, And
Yeah.
so those are some of the things that I learned right off the bat. But more than that, I learned that you truly did have to shift because what's the first thing you do when you go to a networking group? You say, okay, who are the people that are going to be there and who do I want to meet? What can I get? You
Yeah.
know? And this truly does change your mind in, okay, who are the people there and what can I offer them?
Yeah. Give us gain.
Yeah, the giver's gain. And that's a big especially for salespeople, that's a big paradigm shift, because we're taught to go out and reach goals and get names and follow up and, do all the stuff, but we're not taught to be prepared other than to give them what we do. Yes, I can tell you up and down what I do and how I can help and all that stuff, but beyond that, how can I help you with the connections that I have? How can I help you solve a problem? How can I help you just be a support of,
Hmm.
man, I had a bad day. Is there somebody that's going to understand as another business owner?
Yeah.
And that's been a big part of it, just having that league of people, no matter whether they're, and having people that are new, that
Hmm.
have just started their businesses. Maybe they're 6 months in, maybe they're 2 years in, all the way to people that have been in business 50 plus years or generationally have taken over a company. To
Hmm.
have that very of knowledge in a room, that people that, like you said, that you have just joined in the last 7 or 8 months, where you can bring so much new knowledge to how you guys are doing business today, differently
Yeah,
than I did 2008, 2009 when I started that I might not even be aware of. And
that's
then
true.
some of the old school ways that we don't do anymore, but maybe should, like
Yeah,
still doing handwritten thank you cards and things like that that mean a whole lot that have kind of been a lost art now, that
yeah,
you get the best of those both worlds to really help you build your business.
that's true. And like since you mentioned the initial 60-second part of the meeting, I think it's one of the most important thing because if you are able to speak something in a way that people remember you, I think that's what it matters. Like if people are able to remember, okay, yeah, she was the one who was, let's say, slightly quirky, slightly funny. Maybe she was uh, she was not following a process or a module in which she was like, okay, this is what I do, this is my gift, this is my ask. Like that's a routine. But if you're able to add something which is funny, which is interactive, people
Yep.
remember you. And the especially for us, I think discipline was the most important part. Uh, BNI gives you that discipline that let's say every weekday, let's say for us it's Tuesday, 7 p.m. 7 a.m. you have to be there.
Yep.
You have to attend the meeting for 3 hours, do the networking. It's good for you, and it gives you that kind of discipline. We were quite indisciplined in that way
Yeah,
initially.
I think the accountability part is huge because, especially, most people in that group are either in a sales position or a leadership position in their
That's true.
company. And as that, we may not, the salespeople, yeah, they have a sales manager or the owner to go to. But if you're the owner
Hmm.
or the VP, you may or may not have anybody to report to. And that can be
That's
a
true.
great thing, but it can be a terrible thing because you have, who are you accountable to? And this gives you an entire room of people to be accountable to and give you measuring, metrics beyond what you're doing for yourself to say, how am I doing as a leader? And I think that's really important.
Yeah. Can you give me an insight on like how BNI was able to support you in building CPR on the way or the path which is it is right now?
Yeah, oh my gosh. Honestly, like I said, I was working for a competitor when I started.
Hmm.
And when I decided after the 2010 heavy big floods that came through Nashville, I
Hmm.
experienced some things in the company I was in that I just, was like, gosh, I really don't want to be a part of this culture. And so when I
Hmm.
decided to start my own company, I went and talked to the BNI people, and because my seat was being paid for by the company, they were going to have to open the seat up and basically have me contend for the seat as a new business against that business and anybody else who wanted to try and join, right?
Yeah.
Well, I had been in it 2 years already to create those relationships. And
Yeah.
so they knew where the check was coming from, but they knew me.
Yeah.
And that really made a difference in when they had to decide who was going to get the seat. And they supported me in such a big
Hmm.
way to start my own company because in the group there was the attorney who did my LLC, and there was a bookkeeper who helped me set up to be able to be in business, and
Yeah.
I had already had the property manager and the realtor said, hey, yeah, we're going to support you and send you all the business. And so having those already set up
Hmm.
relationships to be able to move right into doing what I wanted to do made life so much easier than having to go vet all those people off the rip and find new relationships to have business with in the first place. So it
Yeah.
was it was phenomenal to be able to do that. And as our chapter has grown and the years have gone by, I still work with a lot of the people that were in that group, back in 2008, 2009, and now I have new people that have joined and visited along the way that have been instrumental in my business.
Yeah. So, like one of the great thing about that BNI gives you is the platform, and each and every chapter has so many people from different fields. As a founder, you always have to wear a lot of hats. You have to be the salesperson, you have to be the admin, operations, each and everything,
HR.
right? Yeah. So you need to have certain skills which you need to outsource because you're not, I mean, if you spend most of your time over there, then you won't be able to do the main job which you're supposed to do. And like especially BNI gives you all those people,
Oh,
accountant.
it's and
Yeah.
even if you don't have it in your group, the app that they've come up with that now you can access, because the website, let's be honest, was a little rough. Yeah, but the app that they've
Hmm.
come up with that now that you can just click and search anybody in BNI anywhere makes
Yeah.
life so much easier to be able to fill in those gaps if your chapter doesn't have one.
Yeah, we know that one part pretty well because we are trying to leverage that thing, find more people, talk to those people, and try to connect with them in this way for sure. So yeah, we are trying to leverage that part.
Yeah,
If you can give us a gist about like the companies, why the name CPR? Because it's an interesting name and especially the short form.
yeah.
And give us gist about what CPR does and how it's the operation works.
Yeah, absolutely. So, there's a lot of restoration companies out there, and you've got your big box companies like Service Master, Serve Pro, that kind of stuff. But,
Hmm.
I wanted to encompass the urgency of what we
Hmm.
do. And
Yeah.
CPR, everybody knows that's urgent.
Yeah.
If somebody's administering CPR, there's something going down. And
Yeah.
that's the heart of our company, is that people who have called
Hmm.
us usually aren't having a good day. They've had
Yeah.
a fire, a flood, they've found some massive issues in their home or business that
Hmm.
require immediate attention. And so we wanted something that conveyed that urgency, but then also told what we did, and that, we know you have a choice. And in that
Hmm.
choice, we want you to know that we're not only going to be urgent, but that we're going to take care of that property, whether it's your home, your business, your whatever it may be.
Hmm.
That property is going to be restored, and that you can have the confidence in us to do that. And so that's kind of how we came up with CPR. And it does have under the logo the little heartbeat strike on it.
Yeah.
So it's,
It's a
and our
thoughtful name.
tagline is response in a heartbeat. So
Oh,
yeah.
I wasn't aware of the tagline. It's great, and the name is quite thoughtful. A lot of businesses do not understand the importance of having the relevance in the name.
Yeah.
But CPR is actually great.
Thank you. I think of us as like the paramedics of property repair. So,
Yeah.
we get there quick, we'll put it together, and then we've got the team to take care of things from start to finish. So, I've been in the industry. My father was a contractor, his father was a contractor, so I'm a third generation contractor. And the
Hmm.
benefit to that is knowing how old homes are built and new homes,
Yeah.
because in Nashville, there's a lot of historic buildings here. And
Hmm.
if you are a new contractor who only knows current codes, you're going to be lost on those old homes and old businesses. But I speak
Yeah.
old house, so luckily I can handle both.
Yeah, I think if you only know the new ones, maybe you could be the reason who create that disaster. Maybe you just nitpick that specific pipeline which actually creates that leakage, just because you were trying to figure it out how what's happening.
Yep. Or, the older materials were a lot more dense than the
Hmm.
materials they use today. So it takes a specialty drying equipment or knowledge to know how to get
Hmm.
around that and how to be successful in it and not have to rip it out and repair and redo it. My whole goal is to do as little damage as possible to get them back in, versus your regular contractor who's going to come in and say, "Hey, just rip this out and we'll start over." Well,
Hmm.
then you lose the history of the building, but you also lose some killer building products that are no longer available. So knowing
Yeah.
how to restore those and being a master at it is my niche.
Is it the biggest challenge as well? Not for you probably.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's absolutely a challenge. That, and just also being a woman in my industry, not to
Yeah.
mention my name being Rusty. Most people assume I'm going to be a man when I walk on site.
Yeah.
But so when they see me and the fact that I'm going to be going into these older structures that maybe, I mean, it could be a serious safety hazard at the time that I'm walking in as well. You know,
Yeah.
ceilings are falling, it's raining from above, or it's flooded up ankle deep. And, so I've got to advise people and keep a calm and level head. That's one of the biggest challenges, is when there are people that have, we're talking about family heirlooms that are there, or we're talking about business continuity. This is their lifeline to make a dollar, and support their
Hmm.
families. And it's had a fire or a flood or something major that's shutting down the continuity, and I have to be able to get them calm and check out all the safety risks and say, hey, you shouldn't be in here, or hey, you can be, but here's what we need to do. And you kind of become a counselor through that
Yeah.
situation. So you have to have a certain countenance about you to be able to handle that, and that level of stress and anxiety every day, that when you show up, they're not always happy to see you, but they're thrilled that you're there. So
Yeah. That's true. You're kind of a savior for them.
yeah, it's and finding the right questions about what's important to them, because what's important to the
Hmm.
insurance company is not always what's important to the client. And the
That's
insurance
true.
companies are often paying the bill. So they
Hmm.
want you to look at their best interest. But my job is
Hmm.
to take care of the best interest of the homeowner or the business owner and say, what's important to you? And how can I
Hmm.
make that happen and still make the insurance company happy?
Yeah.
So it's a balancing act.
So I believe this is a male-dominant industry, and uh, I'm sure you must have faced challenges with respect to making people comfortable about it when you show up. Maybe people, I'm not sure about right now. People have grown, evolved, they're much smarter right now. But historically, I believe there's a possibility that people actually might have, um let's say, doubt the
Oh,
capability.
trepidation. Absolutely. I've dealt with my fair share of trepidation with, the fact that I am a female, and so I think it goes a long way to have the certifications that I have. A, says a lot, but
Hmm.
B, when you're able to speak to someone with confidence and walk them through your process and educate them, that's the
Hmm.
biggest part. And B&I plays a big role in that, to give you that
Hmm.
confidence to take charge in a room, right? Because we have to do our
Yeah.
10-minute presentations, and we have to know what we're talking about, educate you guys to be able to sell for
Hmm.
us. And you're not going to do that if you're not confident in me, right?
That's true.
So B&I has really helped me in that aspect as well, that it gives you the confidence to be guaranteed that you know what you're talking about, because if you don't,
Hmm.
you're not going to last in B&I, and you're most certainly not going to last in business.
Yeah.
So those things, but also the notoriety. When people Google me, they can see I've been in B&I leadership. I've been in this group for 10 plus years. I've been in business for X amount of years. I have,
Hmm.
those kind of things that support saying, hey, she knows what she's talking about. She's been in a group of peers that trust her for 15 plus years. I can
Hmm.
trust her too. So
Yeah.
it leads to help to your credibility as well, being a part of associations like BNI.
Yeah, that's 100%. I mean, people, if they're coming from a reference, 100% they'll trust you because they might be trusting that person from which the reference would have came. I think the usual problem kicks in when people might have just found you on Google when they were looking for the response services,
Yeah.
and then the real challenge might have come.
Yeah. But that's where I get to say, hey, you know what? Google my name. See
Yeah.
what comes up. Don't
Hmm.
worry about Google the company, that's fine. But Google me. Because at the end of the day, I am CPR. I'm the brand,
Hmm.
right?
That's true.
And if you don't understand that as a business owner, that at the end of the
Hmm.
day, you are the brand, then you're missing the mark. And
Hmm.
so being able to be in, I was the president of the Chamber of Commerce in our area. I've been the president of BNI a couple of times,
Yeah.
and having those things under your belt and then making sure that somebody like you is
Hmm.
posting them and letting people know, hey, this is what she's done, this is what she's accomplished, this is, and she leads this company, and if she can lead an entire chamber of commerce, and she can lead a business leaders meeting and networking meeting and all of these things, and she has the certifications that she knows what she's doing, then she can most certainly take care of you. and
Yeah.
and BNI is really big in that, in posting when something happens, or if you get the
Hmm.
change of leadership and stuff like that. And so if people aren't taking advantage of that on their BNI pages or their personal websites, or
Hmm.
their social media, they absolutely should be.
Yeah. So, like, if you don't mind sharing, how much, let's say, revenue percentage is contributed by BNI?
Oh gosh, one of my biggest contracts that I have that gives me com- just time over time business came from BNI. And I would
Hmm.
say at this point in my business, almost 40 last I looked, about 47% can be attributed to my
Okay.
long, but you have to remember I've been in it a long time too.
Yeah, very long
So,
time.
but now because of I've gone and visited other chapters, I have relationships, I've gone through the app and said, "Hey, who do I need to know that's in BNI?" And
Yeah.
by doing that, it's really made a predominant impact in the growth of our business,
Yeah.
47%.
Yeah, yeah, I'm sure it's compounding and ideally it should increase because of the number of years you've spent in BNI.
Yep.
The compounding should kick in and the percentage should increase.
Absolutely. So,
So
I
how
mean,
do,
and that's
let's
the other
say,
thing, is not expecting that right off the bat. You know,
yeah.
you got to go in and realize that you got to put in the work for people to trust you. And that's why, I urge people, hey, you know what? Just in the group, use me first. If you don't have an emergency, right? Maybe you
Hmm.
need your air ducts cleaned, or maybe you want me to inspect your crawl space and just make sure everything's good, so that I can give them a touch of what it would be like if they referred me. And
Yeah.
so that's something that I urge people to do, is there a little service that you have that maybe it's not the full blown package, or like you do in these podcasts,
Hmm.
what's that little touch that I can give them, that they get the experience of what our business
Hmm.
is like. And that will help you get turnaround business so much faster than if
Hmm.
they have to wait for an event to happen to experience you, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's true. So, uh, like I was reading somewhere, there's a difference between services and hospitality. Like services is something which we all are providing. But if you're able to give a good hospitality to that person, a small service will give you that kind of confidence which they're looking for. And next time when something hits up, I think you'll be the first person in the top of the list where they want to just give it a call and ask you. I think the hospitality thing which you provide with your service is something which makes most of the difference.
Absolutely. And the fact that I'm still very involved in the operations of the business. And so
Hmm.
if people have questions, I'm an accessible owner. And, that's
Hmm.
great for companies that are so big that they have multiple managers that they don't have to. But
Hmm.
I enjoy being a part of, what's going on, and just being able, whether it's that at the end of it that I get to make a phone call and say, hey, how did everything go? How was I want to know, I want you to know that I'm the owner and I care, and I'd like to hear about your experience, or at the very beginning of it, and I say, hey, I'm the owner. These are my guys. Here's who I expect to have out there to you. And
Hmm.
just the fact that they know that they heard from me through the process is
Hmm.
impressive to a lot of people.
Yeah,
They're like, wow, I got to talk to the owner. That doesn't happen from a lot of companies.
that's
So
true.
they know that I'm accessible. And I think that
Hmm.
that's been a big benefit to being able to be, because I'm not always going to have the answer. And I'll let them know that, hey, you know what? I'm the owner, but I don't always have the answer, but I have somebody on staff who does. Let me get you that person. but they have
Hmm.
confidence in the fact that I'm behind the scenes and I know what's going on with them.
Hmm. That's actually important. Like a lot of our clients, they specifically mention while they onboard that you would need to be part of the discussion. Otherwise, they won't get on. And the only reason for that is the comfort. I believe the skills which I have, a lot of people will have. It's more about the comfort which owner gives compared
Yep.
to somebody from the team.
Yep. The confidence and the comfort that they have that the person that holds everything together is
Hmm.
accessible, and
That's
that
true.
they've at least got to touch base with them and feel confident in who that person is. Because if they are
Hmm.
confident in me, that confidence trickles down to my team,
That's true.
and that goes a long way.
Yeah. So apart from BNI, like what are the other source of like how do people recognize you or how do people reach out to you in case of any emergency or in case if they are facing something? Like do they just Google you or they just Google for uh, emergency services? How do they reach out?
Yeah, so a lot of people will say, even if you just put in water damage, Nashville,
Hmm.
will pop up.
Okay.
But you can Google my name or my business, and either way, you'll find us. So,
Hmm.
a lot of people, because my name is unique for a female,
Hmm.
that makes it almost because, if you go to a networking meeting, you may not remember the name of everybody's company. But like you said, if I said something funny or quirky, or in my case, sometimes nasty because the jobs can be really rough. And people
Hmm.
are like, man, I'm glad I don't have to do what you do. But,
Yeah.
when I tell them stories about going under a house and a snake falling on,
Me because of the last name which I have. So the unique name actually helps a lot.
yep. So I think, and if you have a unique company name, it goes back to making sure you've branded yourself well, or that you make
Hmm.
yourself publicly known. Being in BNI is great, but anything that I can get in my local community and make sure that people know that I'm accessible, or that philanthropic things like that. Like, I'm on the
Hmm.
board of the YWCA. I was the past president of the Chamber of Commerce. So
Hmm.
it leads to all of that, notoriety of who you are locally, and so it keeps you in the know of, hey, this is a person that is out there and doing business. She's well known, so clearly it's not a shady little company. She's out in the community and people
Yeah.
trust her.
Do you want to pick it up?
No.
Cool. That makes sense. So, like, we do have couple of businesses which are the restoration one, and like roof restoration, repair, sort of those things. And a lot of time, like what we have seen is almost like 80 to 90% of the business is coming from marketing. Like we talk to them often in a way that they shouldn't be entirely dependent on marketing. Marketing should be a decent amount of, let's say, the revenue distribution. But if it's the most revenue distribution, then ideally, probably they should do something organic. And BNI is, let's say, organic part which you
Yeah.
do to build that kind of revenue stream.
I have a website. Sadly, I have not updated it in a very long time, so it's
Yeah.
definitely in need. But mine is mostly organic. I get a lot of
Hmm.
referrals from, the relationships that I've built over the years, and I do have,
Hmm.
I didn't even have a lot of the restoration companies have marketing reps that go and take the cookies to the insurance office, or they go and join IREM and all these other building. I'm not in any of the building and property management groups. I'm not, in any of that stuff, but my guys are busy every single day. I have a crew of 15, and
Okay.
we don't ever have a day where I have to send them home and say, well, I don't have something for you to do today. But I
Hmm.
just hired in the last 2 years, I just hired a procurement person who's going to help with like government contracts and things like that. I don't have
Hmm.
anyone that goes out and goes to pop in to bring someone cookies, because at the end of the day, I I was that person once upon a
Hmm.
time, And while it might be great, and yes, I built relationships, it didn't give me the return on investment that I think is most important that you can get from having the confidence built in who you are and really spending deep time with people like you do at BNI
Hmm.
or at other events. And I prefer to build relationships that way than to just drop off some pins and cookies. So,
No, that's if you do that, it's more of a transactional thing.
yeah,
Uh, and people get to know about it that okay, this is a transaction which that person is trying to do. It's not something which that person is trying to build for a very long time.
yeah.
And if somebody is doing that for a very long time, then it brings the trust. It doesn't just bring the transaction or the money attached to it or the revenue attached to it.
Yeah. And I try to get to know people. Even it's amazing to me when I first started, I thought, oh, I need to look for the insurance people, the property managers, the realtors, the plumbers, that kind of thing. But it's amazing to me. One of the biggest referrals I ever got came from a moving company. And
Oh,
and you wouldn't think that
okay.
that would be my biggest source of referral.
Hmm.
But
The
the
package and
mover
movers thing.
Yeah, the mover actually had a family member that worked at a very large plumbing company here in Tennessee. And
Okay.
they were able to introduce me to that family member. I got to know the family member well. And then they
Hmm.
introduced me to, the higher ups at the company, which built that. And it took me 3 months to build the relationship, just getting to know them, finding out how
Hmm.
I could help, that kind of thing, and how they did business and how I could help them introduce them to the realtors that I knew that could give them more
Hmm.
business. I didn't go in saying, "Hey, I could do this for you," or could you send me work?" It was, "Hey,
Hmm.
how does your business work, and what's your biggest challenge, and how much are you trying to grow, and in what sector are you trying to grow?" And
Hmm.
by asking them those questions, I was able
Hmm.
to then turn around and introduce them to property managers and things that I knew that I was getting business from to give them business. And
Yeah.
then they turned around and said, "Hey, you know what? You've really helped us. What could you do to help us?" And I didn't ask, I let them ask me.
Yeah.
And that's created now a 7-year long, really profitable relationship.
That's great. That's a quite inspirational chain reaction, and that's quite evident that if you invest in a relationship with proper intention, with good intentions, it actually gives you benefits much better than a relationship which is based out of uh,
Transaction.
yeah,
Yeah.
transactions.
So,
Cool. So like if somebody wants to start a similar sort of a business, um, what is, let's say, one thing which you want to suggest that person that, okay, this is something which you should take care of initially, because if not, then you will be in a pit eventually.
oh gosh, there are so many things I didn't know when I started out, right? But in restoration, you have to carry so many different licenses, because you're a contractor, right? So you at least need
Hmm.
to have an HI. But
Yes.
secondly, then you also have to have an EPA pest control license, because most of your products that we use are registered also as pest control. So you have to have
Yes.
that as well. So take care of those and be prepared to give up the first couple of years of your life, at least, if you're going to be involved in the business and not just the money behind it. If you're truly going to be involved, be prepared to have a lot of sleepless nights, especially if you live in areas of cold weather, things like that. There are seasons of extreme busyness where you're the person that's rolling out of bed at 2 o'clock in the morning. And you have
Yeah.
to understand that about this business, that it won't wait till tomorrow. They will call someone else. So
Hmm.
you have to be able to have a sense of urgency and be okay with that. Or make a different business model, because emergency services truly means emergency
Hmm.
services. You're going to be there at 2 o'clock
Yeah.
in the morning on Christmas. you know. So
Hmm.
you have to know that you signed up for that.
Yeah. I think that's the big thing because people uh, might not, or some of the, at least some of the founders, I think, might not understand and they might take it for granted. But you can't take this one for granted because you're supposed to be there.
Yep.
It's the need of the hour or the minute probably. It's
Yeah.
something which you need to be there immediately.
When a sprinkler pipe is going off and dumping, hundreds of gallons of water an
Yeah.
hour, every minute that you dilly dally to get there costs them. And
Yeah.
so it makes a big difference. And right off the bat, making those relationships with service providers, because you either have to have a plumber on staff or you need to have
Hmm.
a great plumber that's willing to show up for you at 2 o'clock in the morning,
Yeah.
and a sprinkler company and the flooring company, and all of the people that you can get your products and materials from. Are they willing to open up their supply house for you at 2 o'clock in the morning if you don't have something? And they're
Hmm.
out there. You just got to build the relationships and make them trust you enough to be willing to get up at 2 o'clock in the morning themselves to do it.
Yeah.
So
I believe
that,
that's the biggest one for the challenge part.
yes, for sure.
Yeah. So I'm sure that you must be meeting a lot of new people in BNI, people like us, people have just started.
Yep.
If you have to give one piece of advice to them on how to crack BNI on or how to crack BNI in a way that they are able to reap most of it for a very long time, because especially the new ones, what I've seen, and it has been a case with us as well, we lack patience.
Yeah.
We want results quickly, maybe in a month, maybe in 2 months. Waiting for 6 months is a very long time for us.
Yeah.
So, what is the one piece of advice that you would want to give?
My one piece of advice is on your 10-minute presentation, it's great to show us what you do and, give us oh, this is a project we've worked on, this is a company we work with. That's fine and dandy, but you're supposed to be training me to sell for you. So train
Hmm.
me like you would train a new salesperson with your 10-minute presentation, but
Hmm.
also tell me why you do what you do, because your why is way more important than your what. So,
Hmm.
and my why is my grandfather was a lieutenant colonel in the Air Force. I am his namesake. His name was Russell. I was supposed to be a boy named Russell and it didn't work out. But he told me there were three things that I had to do better than I found them. And so now I run a restoration company and
Hmm.
I leave the people, and honestly a lot of people uh don't get to remodel their homes unless they've had a major event, right? And they use the insurance money to
Hmm.
do it. So I definitely
Hmm.
get to leave their homes better than I found them. I get to console
Hmm.
them during a hard time and give them someone to lean on.
Yeah.
And we give them trust to know that if something ever happens again, they know who to call and that they'll be taken care of. So I think that I've
Hmm.
been able to do that. And, he was a hard man to live up to. He was a lieutenant colonel in the Air Force, Saginaw the Wabash. He led the AMVETS in our town. He fought in World War II. So he had a long
Yeah.
laundry list of things to live up
Yeah.
to. And because of that, it drove me to do what I do and do it the best I possibly could. And that why makes a
Hmm.
difference. So share with people your why,
Yeah.
train them well on how to sell you, not just who you are and what you do, but how do I introduce you? What does that look
Hmm.
like?
Hmm. That why is something which I understand is important because, like you shared this story with me, I think it would stay with me for a long time because you shared it why. Otherwise, I mean, it's easy to forget people.
Yeah.
But if you're able to say something which stays, you'll remember that person.
Yeah.
And I think that's a great advice. Even even this is something which I would follow for my next 10 minutes.
Nice. I'm
Yeah.
glad I could
So
be a benefit.
I'm sure 100%. I mean, not just for this specific question, I believe in the entire 30, 40 minutes which we have spent, there are a lot of pointers which I've taken and the mental note which I would want to implement for sure.
Awesome. So, what's
Yeah.
one thing being a new member that you wish that you could either remind people that are have been in it a long time, or that you could bring to the table that maybe we get complacent with after we've been in it for so long?
So one thing which we try to do in general is try to be different. Like in any possible way, we try. So we analyze what people are doing, and especially the ones who have been there for a very long time. So they follow a certain pattern. When we go there, we try to break that pattern. For example, the 10 minutes thing which you were talking about, every presentation which we saw started with, okay, these are the services which they offer. This is how they have done projects, and they give project examples and the things which they have done in certain homes, houses, the redecoration which they have done, sort of those things. When we went there, we went in a way that, okay, this is Akshay. Now he has been doing this for a very long time. Now he was sleeping, he got an idea that he wants to expand his business. What do you do? Now we build an entire storyline out of it. Everyone in the meeting room got to understand what we were trying to say because there was a story to it. Now the entire presentation was of I think 20 slides. In the last two slides, we showed okay, these are the services which we offer. The 18th slide was the story which we wanted to tell, and people actually remember that story.
Yeah,
So we try to be different. I think that is something which is helping us every time what we do is something which is breaking the pattern. And what we've realized is if you're staying there for a very long time, you build a pattern. And maybe people like us who are new, they actually gives you a different perspective. Same that we actually look up to for people who have been for a very long time, they gives us a very different perspective. Now, when we look at businesses, we look at from a digital lens. They give us a lens, okay, you have been looking into a business with a very specific lens. If you look at it in a very broad way, people can be like we can build different revenue stream from different things which we have never thought of because we were never part of that generation. So it's working both ways, but working well for sure.
that's awesome.
Yeah. Cool. I think this is something which we are towards the end of the podcast. We have had a great time talking to you, Rasri, and uh, thank you for accepting the invitation we have given you. We are so happy to host you on the podcast, and we love every insight which you have given to us and the people who will be watching this.
That's awesome. And I look forward to where can I find the podcast?
Once the entire discussion is done, you'll receive a mail in which we'll ask you a couple of things, let's say with respect to your business logo, the Instagram handle, so that we are able to tag in
Nice.
people and the company. Once that is done, we'll host the podcast on the like we have our profile on YouTube, we have our profile on Instagram. We'll share another mail with each one of the links which we have posted so that you are able to see it. You need to, if you want to share it, you can share it. So each and everything is something which you'll receive on your over your email.
Awesome.
Yeah. But in general, what I'll do is I'll ask my team to share the links of the podcast which we have in general done in case if you want to consume any one of it.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate the invite and thank you so much.
That's great. Um, cool. I'll just stop the podcast. It might take a couple of seconds.